right now. You're at 7:15.
I know, but I need him to turn on the recording. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting, the special meeting of the Township of Springfield Planning Board, December 18th, 2018, to order. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with the Sunshine Law. Notice was published on December 1st, 2018 in the New Jersey Star Ledger, which is the official newspaper of the Township of Springfield for 2018, and was posted on the Annex Building on December 3rd, 2018. I'd like to call a salute to the flag, please.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Can I have a quick roll call, please?
Mayor Huber?
Yes.
Mr. Barnett?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Here.
Mr. Fernandez?
Here.
Ms. Grzybowski is absent. Mr. Pilmenstein?
Yes.
Mr. Wishna?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yep.
Mr. Brandel is absent. Vice Chair Kessel is absent. Chairman Jeff Tiger?
Here.
Sir, we have a quorum.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, I just want to thank the board for getting together today. It was a short notice to do a meeting. We have three resolutions. The first one is application 7-2018S. This was the redevelopment application the board heard in November. SPD Sale LLC, 226 Morris Avenue, block 207, lots 1 and 2, preliminary and final site plan with mixed-use redevelopment. Before we go, I just want Glenn to outline some of the changes that were approved with the attorney that they worked together on, just so that the board's aware.
I think,
High level.
I think the changes, a lot of them were Scribner issues. Some of them were debates over conditions in the approval.
Excuse me, will you please turn your flash off? Thanks, very distracting.
I'm just looking to see if I have the red line one, Mr. Chairman. And Sammy, there were Scribner ones. There was some debates on conditions that we left some conditions in on development. There was an issue that the chairman had about making sure that the affordable housing was correct. Just help me to.
Yeah, I mean, really all minor
Yeah.
stuff, and some of it grammatical. All the issues of substance were in the resolution. So there were a couple of issues that Mr. Schwartz also sent in, and also were minor. They were corrected, has to do with comma or space or removal or adding of a word.
Yeah, he said that the attorney didn't have English as his native language or something. I'm kidding.
And there were a couple of conditions that were added. One of them is to comply with the site fence ordinance, and we changed reference from a township attorney to a board attorney for review of bylaws, and that's really the sum of it.
Perfect. Board have any questions? I think that summarized it. I read through this, and I know Mr. Schwartz did as well, and we went back and forth, and we provided some changes, and I think we find it acceptable now. Anyone have any questions, concerns? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of Resolution 7-2018S. This is in the matter of SPD Sale LLC for preliminary and final major site plan approval.
Anyone second it?
Second.
Okay, have a roll call.
Mr. Barnett?
Yes.
Mr. Pilmenstein?
Yes.
Mayor Huber?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Wishna?
Yes.
Chairman Tiger?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Perfect. Okay, the next one is for application 10-2018S. This was RDH, ACH, well, a lot of initials, LLC, 173 Mountain Avenue, block 802, lot 11. This was the orthodontist office. We heard this meeting at our last board meeting. I know we all had a chance to review the resolution. Any questions, concerns? No? Seeing none, can I entertain a motion, Mr. Pilmenstein?
Do we have this printed?
Which was, I got 12-2018.
It was circulated in your email as well as on
Circulated in
the
the email.
drive.
Oh, okay.
In the Google Drive.
You didn't print it out.
This is 10-2018?
Yeah, 10-2018.
Right on, thank you. In that case, I'd like to motion to approve application 10-2018-S, RDH ACH LLC, 173 Mountain Ave, block 802, lot 11, for the preliminary and final site plan approval with the bulk variance for the orthodontist office.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Pilmenstein?
Yes.
Mr. Barnett?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
And Chairman Tyers.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Perfect. The next one is application 12-2018S. This was a resolution for Advanced Care Oncology Hematology Associates LLC, 385 Morris Avenue, Block 701, Lot 10. Sam, what took place? I know that you had some extra comments before we adopt the resolution. Did everything work out from your visit with them?
Yes, at the last meeting, the board specifically wanted to make sure that the sign is placed at the proper location and it would not interfere with any pedestrian traffic. And Mr. Disco and I worked with the applicant, and we came up with a location that I think the board would be approving of, and that's what we were satisfied the resolution can be adopted.
Okay, perfect. Any questions on the board? Can I entertain a motion to approve the resolution as we have in our hands?
So moved.
Is that the oncology?
Yeah,
Second.
oncology one.
All right, that one just had some Scribner changes that Jen and I made.
Correct, that's why I printed it out.
Perfect. So you motioned?
Sure.
And who seconded?
I did.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Pilmenstein?
Yes.
Mr. Barnett?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
I voted no on this, so I can't vote here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
And Chairman Tiger.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Perfect. Okay, the
Mr.
next.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I just realized on the last one for the orthodontist office, I had recused myself.
Yes.
And I just voted for it.
Noted, and it's on the record now.
It's on the record.
Yep, okay.
Perfect. Okay, the next thing we have is, which is the whole reason we're here right now, is the area and redevelopment public hearing. This is for block 101, lots 134, 45, and 46. This, as you know, was the old Stop and Shop application, which was Saks. They had litigation for 20 years. As soon as the litigation ended, this board, we talked, we came into this discussion, we asked the governing body for some dollars to do a study to see what was appropriate for the site. We had that study. That study resulted in some meetings with Stop and Shop to kind of see what the feasibility of the property was. But the next logical step before we move forward is to kind of hear from our township redevelopment attorney and our township redevelopment planner, kind of hear how this fits into the redevelopment process and the area of redevelopment. There's a memo that they prepared for us, which everyone should have on their desk, which is very good to be able to familiarize yourself with when we hear from them. So if we can have you guys come up for a brief overview.
Before we start, Matt, can I ask you a question? Did you check, because I talked to people on Township Committee years ago, and they voted to have this redevelopment already, before. And this was voted years ago to be redeveloped. So why are we doing it again?
We don't have any record, nor have we received any record from the township that this has already been declared an area in need of
When they
redevelopment.
restarted the shop, I'm saying shop, supermarket and all that, it was voted for redevelopment at that time.
Not
I
this site.
understand.
What was voted for redevelopment is the downtown area, but not this site here.
But I'm not saying when I was there, I'm talking about years ago, 20 years ago. All right, I mean, they said that they did, well, that's why.
Well, we're going to brush up and do it again then, if that's the case.
Right,
So,
And even if it was, to make sure all of the records are
Right.
preserved, the notices were done properly, the publications were done properly. If it was done 20 years ago, odds are those documents might not be around to confirm that it was done the right way.
Done properly?
Right, and so if nothing else,
are you saying you do everything properly?
we certainly
Saying
try.
it does it the new way.
It's always good to do it now
I
again.
just want to make sure.
Those records
no,
might have been
again,
washed
we-
away
that's the
in a
first we've heard of that.
deluge that affected.
All
our
right, so
basement
to
here.
give a brief overview.
Yeah,
and
so Chairman, Planning Board members, I'm Matt Jessup from McManaman, Scotland and Bauman. We are the Township's Redevelopment Council. As the Chairman already mentioned, we're here on Block 101, lots 1, 34, 45, and 46 on Milburn Avenue, again, commonly known as the Saks property or the Stop and Shop property. We're here tonight solely to determine whether or not that property, all or a portion of that property, meets one or more of the criteria under the redevelopment law as an area in need of redevelopment, and in particular as a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment. If the planning board finds and then the township committee finds that this is in fact an area in need of redevelopment, the power of eminent domain will not be available to the township in connection with this property. The Township Committee did adopt a resolution in September of 2018 referring these properties to the Planning Board and directing the Planning Board to hold this hearing tonight and to investigate whether or not the properties meet the criteria as an area in need of redevelopment. In accordance with the redevelopment law, a map has been prepared, a report has been prepared by Keenan Hughes, the township's redevelopment planner. That report's dated October 2018, and I believe you have the full report together with a summary version that has previously been on record with the secretary. The property owners have been noticed, and so tonight we're here to primarily have Keenan take you through the report to talk about why all or a portion of these properties may qualify as an area in need of redevelopment. If you so agree to adopt a resolution tonight, I know that's normally you take action and adopt at the subsequent meeting, but we do have a resolution for your consideration tonight to adopt a resolution that would recommend to the Township Committee that they declare this an area in need of redevelopment, and that is in following with the procedural requirements of the redevelopment law. And the reason we have the resolution for you tonight is because the Township Committee has a meeting in a little while where they would consider a resolution to declare this as an area in need of redevelopment if the planning board does make that recommendation. So that's the purpose of tonight's meeting. In addition, we need to hear from any members of the public who want to speak on the area need designation. Finally, what tonight is not, as many of you know, I know you've been through this before, this is not what are we building at the Stop and Shop site. This is not who's building it, what's it going to look like. As you know, there are multiple public meetings, including meetings before this governing body, regarding those questions at a later date. This is simply a matter of taking a look at the conditions of the property and deciding whether or not it is in fact an area that is in need of redevelopment. And unless you have any questions with that, I will leave it to Keenan to explain to you why it probably does.
Matt, just real quick, if it does fall in a redevelopment area, then they'll be able to build it differently than what's the land use right now, right? They could go higher if they wanted to, they can go.
If this is determined to be an area in need of redevelopment, one of the next steps will be the preparation and adoption by the Township Committee after review and findings here of a redevelopment plan.
Right.
The redevelopment plan will govern the zoning for the redevelopment area. It will govern height, density, parking, facade requirements, all of the typical zoning requirements of an area will be contained in the redevelopment plan that'll be reviewed by the planning board before it's finally adopted by the Township Committee.
And what did you say about the eminent domain part?
This is, the redevelopment law requires at the outset that you determine whether this is a condemnation area in need of redevelopment, in which case the municipality has the power to condemn the property in order to effectuate the redevelopment of the project, or a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment, in which case you cannot use eminent domain. The township cannot use eminent domain to take the property to effectuate redevelopment. This particular area being reviewed tonight is being proposed as a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment.
So again, we're just making a determination tonight that it fits the criteria that our planner is going to outline, and that's why we had a memo so we can kind of walk through it with him. Afterwards, the governing body will work with you to come up with the plan, and then that will come back to us to review that specific plan. What's going to be on their height, how many units of this, how many units of that, so the board will have an opportunity at that point in time to review that and make comments.
Correct. Township Committee will refer the plan to you for findings and recommendations. You'll have another hearing similar to this one, make findings and recommendations back to the Township Committee, and then they'll, take action after that.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
Keenan, I'm going to swear you in.
Yes.
You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in proceedings before the board tonight, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
I'm Keenan Hughes, Hughes.
And you're a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I am.
And your license is valid as of tonight?
It is.
And you have served as redevelopment planning extraordinaire planner for Springfield for some time, right? But
I have, that's correct.
okay, and the board accepts it. I think we always have to just get that in and make sure that you have been sworn in before you actually testify.
Of course.
Tell the
Okay.
truth.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is walk you through the area in need of redevelopment investigation that our firm prepared. It's dated October 2018. And as the chairman noted, we did provide also a memo dated December 14th, which basically summarizes the results of our analysis. So I'll just briefly discuss the property itself, its zoning and master plan treatment, and then we'll get into the application of the statutory criteria of the redevelopment statute. I think, I would assume many are very well aware of this property. It's the former SAC site, we'll call it. Consists of 4 lots located within Block 101. Lot 1, lots 34, 45, and 46. The property is approximately 9.6 acres. It is located along Milburn Avenue predominantly. And the land use context here is, aside from Milburn Avenue, which is more commercial and mixed use in orientation, it is predominantly residential to the north and south of the property. Lot 1 is the largest portion of the site. It is improved with the former department store structure, which was approximately 83,000 square feet in size. This is a 9-acre lot. It contains both the building as well as the majority of the paved surface parking area, which exists behind the structure. Lot 45 is approximately 3,600 square feet, and that has 50 feet of frontage along Milburn Avenue. Lot 46 is approximately 2,700 square feet with 92 feet of frontage along Milburn Avenue. And then lot 34 is the paved access roadway or driveway, which extends from the property to frontage along Morris Avenue. In terms of the existing zoning of this property, it's essentially split zone, or at least lot 1. Lot 1, approximately 3 acres along Milburn Avenue are located within the general commercial zone, which is, as you are probably well aware, permits a variety of retail and business uses. And then the back portion of the site, predominantly consisting of the surface parking areas located in the S75 single-family residential zone. And those districts are summarized on page 10 of our report, but I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about those at this time. In terms of the township's master plan, this site, not surprisingly, given its history, the department store shuttered in 1990. It has, for a long time, been targeted for redevelopment. In fact, the township's 1997 master plan placed an emphasis on encouraging harmonious development with neighboring residential areas of this property, and went on to state that a mixed-use development option is proposed for this parcel, which would allow a combination of commercial and multifamily residential use developed as a single entity. This type of development scheme would create a transition between the single-family residential development existing to the east and south of the site and the commercial uses in Springfield and Milburn along Milburn Avenue. So that was from 1997, and then the 2005 master plan reexamination basically elaborated a bit on that policy statement and reiterated the importance of encouraging the appropriate redevelopment of this site. So all that's to say, this has been a long-standing policy objective for the township, encouraging redevelopment of this property. The state development and redevelopment plan places this site within PA1 along with the majority of the township, which encourages redevelopment, particularly of a compact and mixed-use nature, to enhance efficient use of infrastructure and scarce land resources, promote a range of activities, and protect the character of existing communities. So now we will get into basically the heart of the study, which is applying the criteria of the redevelopment statute to this property. I'm not going to read through all of the criteria. They're described or repeated on pages 13 and 14 of our study, but the ones that are relevant for this analysis are criteria A, B, and D. And so turning our attention to this property, and I have an exhibit which is simply the photographs that were contained in figure 4 of our study, just enlarged for view. These are some of the existing conditions at the property as photographed in October of this year. But again, this property, as I mentioned, the department store was shuttered in 1990. It has been stagnant and unused since that time. And as you can see in these photographs, the building really has been overtaken by nature in terms of overgrown ivy. It's also covered in graffiti. Inside the building, and I've done a number of development investigations, this is probably the most treacherous, I would say, in terms of just even visiting the site. There is debris everywhere, including broken glass, pieces of the ceiling and columns that have fallen down. There are numerous holes in the ceiling, and so you see a lot of evidence of water seepage. Portions of the ceiling have fallen to the floor, and many of the walls and columns are punctured and covered with graffiti. There's also evidence of illegal trespassing that has occurred at the site over the years, and the floor is extensively damaged by water. So, turning to some of the language in the statutory criteria, the current state of the building is not only untenable, but also unsafe, unsanitary, and dilapidated as to be conducive to unwholesome working or living conditions. So that's essentially what qualifies it under criterion A of the redevelopment statute. Furthermore, the discontinuance of the building for commercial purposes and its subsequent abandonment for 2 decades has led the building to fall into a state of disrepair so as to be untenable, and this qualifies it under criterion B of the redevelopment statute. And then also, considering that the building itself, it was originally designed as a department store building, a standalone department store building, in many ways it has reached the end of its useful life. In fact, it probably did so over 20 years ago. I think everyone's well aware of how the retail market has changed over the years. This was a standalone department store, which was extremely challenged way back when. And even today, you have department stores that are struggling, even ones that are integrated within larger retail centers. So this is not only a physically dilapidated structure, but it's also one that's functionally obsolete. And it is not a candidate for conversion or reuse for its intended use as a department store. So in its current state, it is detrimental to the safety, health, and welfare of the community, which qualifies it under criterion D of the redevelopment statute. And then just briefly, the other lots that are contained within this property that consist of the surface parking areas. In visiting the site, there's evidence of poor maintenance and the lack of functioning light fixtures throughout the site. There are numerous cracks full of weeds in the pavement in the parking lot, several dents and signs of raveling throughout the driveway areas. There's an overall lack of landscaping, islands, and signage. This is really an old-fashioned retail surrounded by a sea of parking type of development, which is really contrary to current planning principles. And the parking lot is also unscreened in the front and side yard areas of the site in many areas, which creates or has the potential to create negative light and glare impacts on adjacent public sidewalks and streets, as well as surrounding properties. So the parking lot here actually consists of 7 acres of the overall 9.6 acre site, whereas the type of mixed-use development that the township has long advocated in its master plan promotes compact land use that enhances the pedestrian realm and provides a more efficient development of the site. So in summary, for those other lots, lots 34, 45, and 46, the dilapidation and faulty arrangement and design of the driveway and parking areas, as well as the excessive land coverage of the surface parking lot, are clearly detrimental to the public health, safety, and general welfare, and run contrary to the intent of the township's master plan and land use policies for the mixed-use redevelopment of this site. So overall, looking at this property as a whole, it is in a severe state of disrepair, particularly with respect to the unsafe and unsanitary conditions which you find inside the building, as well as the functionally obsolete nature of the building itself and the faulty arrangement and design of the surrounding excessive surface parking areas. all of which qualify the entire property under the redevelopment statute, consistent with criteria A, B, and D. So with that, I think that concludes my direct presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions from the board.
Did you shower after you came out of that building?
You know, I think I went back to the office, but I certainly felt like I needed a shower the rest of the day.
Okay. So let's open up to the board for some questions, and then I want to hear from Catherine from Mr. Michael's office and Mr. Disco to kind of hear, and then we'll kind of ask some questions. So,
Okay.
Jeff, we'll start down that side.
Just a simple question. It sounds obvious from what you're saying, though, but this is beyond any type of repair. There's no other question as to, other than to knock it down, right?
I think at this point, just given particularly the extensive water damage that you see inside this building, I mean, this is, from my perspective, it's one of the most clear-cut examples of what was intended by the redevelopment statute. It is unequivocally meets the criteria, and I have to say it's not common that you're able to use criteria A and B, because those to me kind of rise to another level in terms of the dilapidation of the site, but in this case they clearly apply.
Yeah, all right, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Scott?
I've got a ton of questions. Maybe not all of them are for today. You've talked about the building mostly, and I think that the redevelopment criteria applies not just to the building use, but the rest of the land, right? So other than the parking lot being in shambles, are there other reasons why the remainder of the site should get the designation?
Yeah,
and the building could have been demoed many years ago, leaving a flat, an undeveloped piece of property.
Right, but the building exists today, and you really have you do have to look at the property as a whole. Now, I have applied the criteria on sort of a lot-by-lot basis to be conservative. It's clear the building meets 3 of the criteria, and actually surface parking in this type of mixed-use, more of a downtown environment, is often qualified under criterion D. And here you have a parking lot which is absolutely outmoded and obsolete in terms of what we would expect for current design standards for a parking facility. And also it just it consumes so much of the property itself that it's really one that meets the redevelopment statute.
So, Scott, it was also taking the fact that if the building was great and they could put a department store, would it survive given what the economic conditions are right now as part of the...
No, I get that part of it. I think the question that I want to make sure I understand, as the decision over recommending designating it in need of redevelopment, if the fee owner or applicant or whomever was pursuing, the entity that was pursuing the supermarket development chose to apply for a demo permit at any point, however many years ago, demoed the building, would you be standing here telling us that the site qualifies as being in need of redevelopment?
Well,
forgetting, I'm trying to say separate the building from the rest of the whole site.
I mean, it's a hypothetical. You know, I didn't do an investigation of a completely vacated site. I will tell you that completely demoing structures on a property do limit your ability to apply some of the statutory criteria, but you know, I didn't do that investigation, so I don't know what those conditions would have looked like. I have done other studies where you know, you are able to qualify a vacant property or property that is solely surface parking. So there would have been potential to do that, but that's not the study that we did.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Mayor? Mayor?
I have no hesitation whatsoever thinking this should be an area of redevelopment.
I think the current zoning that's in place, considering what we can do and really make an area that we can kind of have development, bring more people in Springfield, totally, I mean, look at the building, I mean, it's pretty bad. Andrew?
Any evidence of infestations, wildlife, insects, when you inspected?
You know, Mr. Mardini was with me. I don't know if he's still here, but I didn't personally see any evidence of that, but we didn't do it terribly. You know, this was almost enough to see, just to, you know, get in there for a few minutes, and it was, yes, this qualifies, and, you know, we were on our way.
From a planning perspective,
yes,
what would the options be for this site if we voted no today?
if you voted no against a redevelopment area designation, you'd be looking at perhaps a traditional rezoning of the site. It may be difficult to create a zone that's custom tailored to this site, just given the fact that it's one property. You could also just leave the existing zoning in place. However, you know, history sort of tells you that hasn't done the trick in terms of encouraging a conversion or redevelopment of the site. So I think you'd probably be looking at a traditional rezoning, but it would be difficult to implement because I'm not sure you could do like a site-specific zone for the property.
Thank you.
David?
So I'm not sure if this is redundant or pretty much another way of saying what Andrew just said, but is there any incentive for us to consider as part of the lots under eminent domain and then designating the building lot as designated for condemnation?
I don't think so. I mean, that's ultimately sort of a business decision for the township committee, whether or not this is condemnation or non-condemnation. This is a non-condemnation area that's being considered. So from a practical perspective, I don't see any upside or advantage to sort of severing it into two different categories. It's either one or the other.
Property owner didn't want to work with you, then you may want to go after that avenue. But
Nothing would ever get built here if we can.
if we did.
This is,
It'd be like this 20 years from now.
Yeah, so this is,
Jerry?
because that'll take forever to do, and it's just, that's if you have a property owner who's not willing to work with you, that you may want to go down that road. And this is obviously the first step in allowing a developer or a redeveloper to come in and build something nice, and maybe build it a little different than it's zoned for right now. It's nothing, all we'll do is benefit the town. It's the first step of many steps, as we're well aware of. So, I mean, for the beginning, it's fine. That's about it. I'm all for it.
Thanks, Jerry.
I have one more question, if I may.
Oh, absolutely.
Would it be fair to say that by voting in favor of the resolution, that we're actually giving both the township committee and the planning board the greatest set of options of how to handle this property?
Yes.
I think it gives the township the greatest level of control over the process and the greatest level of certainty as to how this property is going to be redeveloped.
Which certainly benefits the citizens of this town.
Absolutely.
One other question. How does Milburn play into this? Being that they're part of.
So, you want to take it, Rich?
Milburn, I met with Milburn. Milburn mayor and also township committee person, and they were against the original development because of trucks. I explained what we want to do, eventually, hopefully, and they were for it, 100%. They have to go through, once this all gets done, they have to go in front of their planning board.
That's what I mean. Does it have to go in front of their planning
Yes, it
board and
does.
their township committee?
Yes.
So will you be going in front of them as well?
Yeah,
No,
development.
not
they would go
kind of
for-
designation.
They would go for, once they get once we do our stuff, and the redevelopment plan is enacted by the governing body, comes back and forth, then they'll submit an application before us for an actual site plan. Once we do that, they can either go simultaneously, or they can wait for us to approve.
And then they approve their part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I
But
mean,
they don't need to put their part into the redevelopment, any type of redevelopment.
no, no. Mr. Disco?
I agree with everything that your planner has said, and it's clearly an area in need of redevelopment.
Perfect.
So, hi everyone. I'm filling in for Bob Michaels, Catherine O'Kane. So I've written a number of redevelopment studies. I concur with the conclusions here. I have also seen buildings, office buildings, supermarkets, department stores. In just a few years of being vacant, dilapidation will set in, and you'll see pretty much the similar conditions that he saw inside. As to the hypothetical, Mr. Wishna, there is a criteria about vacant land. So if they did demolish the building and it stayed vacant for over 10 years, it would qualify as a criteria. So with or without the building, depending on the hypotheticals. So I just want to clarify that. The only question I have, and I apologize, I didn't have a chance to see the report, but did you use any police, fire, or health records to kind of back up the idea that this is falling under criteria D and detrimental to the health, safety, welfare, morals of the community?
Yeah, we did request from Mr. Mardini's office all those records, and actually there was a dearth of records available, perhaps just because it's been vacant for so long, but we did request crime records, health department records, etc., and actually nothing came back. Somewhat surprising, but perhaps just because it's been vacant so long, that's the reason why.
Thank you very much. I support the conclusions.
Thank you. Anything further?
Not from my end.
Perfect. Anything from the board?
Yeah, I got one quick question. Has the space been evaluated for environmental issues, lead, water table issues? A developer can come in and go to work, or do we not know yet what it's like?
I'm not an expert on that aspect of the property. I think the property owner is probably the best person to consult in that regard.
That'll all come up when they when they present their application.
That's right.
Perfect. Any members of the public wish to speak on our discussion of our area in need redevelopment for Block 101, lots 1, 34, 45, and 46? Don't rush up all at once. Seeing none, I'm going to close this matter to the public and open it up for us to have a discussion. So I think as outlined by council. Council, do you have anything to add?
No, I would just suggest that on a piece of property like this, with it being 9 acres, I think
9.45.
I think that what was just outlined by Mr. Hughes makes it pretty clear that it gives you the greatest range of options. And if you did it through conventional zoning and land use 101, you could never get the rich variety and texture that I think you really need on a site like this. So everything he said and more, I really think this is critical to do it this way. I don't think you can do it with the old tools. I think you need the new tools to get something to happen.
I agree.
Thank you, I agree too. Okay, so nothing from the public, anything else from the board? Can we entertain a motion to?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to.
You want to do it at the same time? Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna, at the same time of deeming it resolution of the Planning Board, Township of Springfield, County of Union, New Jersey, recommending that blocks 101, lots 1, 34, 45, and 46 be designated a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment. So at the same time of making that recommendation to the governing body, we're going to put together a resolution that will go over to the governing body for their meeting tonight. So do you want to make that motion?
You just said it.
No, I can't say it. You say it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend that this board approve a resolution to the Township of Springfield, the County of Union, New Jersey, recommending that Block 101, lots 1, 34, 45, and 46 be designated as a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment, and we send that recommendation to our Township Committee as soon as possible.
Perfect. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second. Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Barnett?
Definitely yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Huber?
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Pilmenstein?
Yes.
Mr. Wishna?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
And Chairman Tiger?
Absolutely.
Motion passes.
Okay, so the last thing is our next planning board meeting will be in this very room on January 2nd for our reorganization meeting only. We will only do reorganization meeting on January 2nd at 7 p.m. in this very room. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'm entertained. You're entertained. Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, no one opposed. Good. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you.